We're at 3 o'clock. We're going to call the meeting to order. And let's start with a Pledge of Allegiance. All right, so we have time for our first public comment, but seeing no public.
I do have something
Oh,
I would
do
like
you?
to say, please.
Excellent.
I just wanted to introduce Crystal Machetto. She's our new deputy clerk, so she's training into the position, so you'll see one or the other or both of us.
Welcome, Crystal. Seeing no other public comment, we're going to move on to a roll call of members.
Sari Kaler,
Ryan Swarzak.
Sue Segura.
Jessica Rowe.
Joe Bettaruti.
Okay, we're moving on to the verification of the posting of the agenda.
Pam Moore, for the record, the agenda was posted on August 15th between the hours of 9 and 11 at the locations listed on the agenda in accordance with statutes.
Excellent. Now we are considering the approval of agenda as submitted or revised.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Do we have a second?
Oh, I wasn't here. I'll second it. I watched it.
Any comment or opposition? Then we'll call for a vote.
Aye.
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 No opposed? So we'll go to a consideration of the approval of the minutes for the meeting on July 25th.
Can I ask a question first? This is to Mr. Weed down there. Are all minutes as detailed as this one is?
Maybe it's a better question for Pam. I think you see a varying degree of detail in minutes. I mean, these are very well taken.
Yes,
But Pam, I don't
amazing.
know if you have some more input on that.
The only input I have is there's a reason that I do it.
Okay.
When I inherited the job, computers were wiped clean, documents were wiped clean, and there have been numerous situations over the years where, like with a development, let's say, there was big discussion, public comment, reasons that decisions were reached, and they needed the minutes to show what happened, and the minutes did not reflect that. So I'm very detailed.
Thank
That's
you.
the reason behind it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say these are excellent minutes and very detailed.
Is there any other discussion of the minutes?
Yes. I just also want to note that we have recordings of all the meetings, too, that are available online at the county,
Right.
on the county website, I should say. What am I doing wrong?
It's the light, Carol, like the little red or, green light. You're not the first.
Excellent. Are there any other comments on the minutes or questions? Hearing none, I'd love to entertain a motion to accept and approve the minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes as submitted.
I'll second it.
Hearing a motion and a second, let's call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Hearing no opposed, the motion carries. So now is the time for our Board of Trustees report. On my end, I'd just like to welcome Sari. It's nice to meet you, and welcome to the board. It's good to have you. Does anybody have anything that they would like to bring into the trustees' reports this week?
I have a few comments I would like to make. I've been at the library quite a bit since the last meeting that I wasn't here for. And Jay had a homeschool program on Tuesday, and it was amazing. It was well attended. She was so, I don't know what the word is, more than professional. She just had everything that we could partake of online. She showed everything that the library offers. I was just very impressed by her. I'm impressed with her at story time, how she fluctuates her voice and really gets the kids involved. It's really amazing. Maria is lovely like always. She is so helpful to the new staff, helping them get acquainted with the programming and everything. So I want to give a shout out to Maria. Lily, she is so cute. I just love her. These kids the other day they were getting excited as they were playing computer programs, and they used a little bit of foul language. And Lily, she just went up there and she confronted them, and she was very firm, but very gentle. And I think she talked to them in a way that was more on their level, so they could understand, whoa, we better not do this, or it's not okay, Magdalena, I love her. She set up the, is it STEM or STEAM? The STEAM program, and wanting to help any little kids she could, but stayed enough in the background so she wasn't forcing herself on them, but if they needed any help, she was there. Katie is super cute. She helped this older gentleman. He wanted to write about his adventures. And so he said, I need markers. And so she went in the back and found him markers and a Sharpie, I think, a certain Sharpie. So that was wonderful. And Carol is wonderful like always. I really appreciate you going through all the minutes with me and answering all the questions that I have. Yeah. And Jessica, she's a new hire. I ran into her this morning, and she seems lovely as well.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Does anybody else have any more that they would like to talk about?
I do. The first thing that I would like to point out is in a couple of Fridays, Friday, September 6th, the Churchill Library Association is sponsoring the annual Books, Bites, and Beverages event. And I have copies of the ad that will be going in the Fallon Post for you folks. All board members are encouraged to attend, and we can even use volunteer help there if you are so inclined.
I'm looking forward to it. Just as a point of clarification for me, where should I get my tickets?
You can either buy, it says right on there, you can either get them from Digitex, Me, Zip, or you can buy them at the door.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I just have one other thing. I joined this board 7 years ago, and it was an autonomous board at that point. And I'm the last of the old dogs from that group. Things are much different now. And quite honestly, I was disheartened with the way Tara Price Gertzmarker and Ashley McGarity were treated with their reappointments when they were rescinded. They did as they were asked on May 31st, and 1 week later, they were terminated and told they could reapply. I don't know what else to say about all of that, but things are much different, and I think it's time for me to move on. And so, as such, I respectfully resign as of now.
Thank you for everything that you've done for us, Joe. I really appreciate it. I know that you've been an influence on me, so I appreciate you. Thank you.
May I be dismissed?
Absolutely. If
Thank
that
you.
is all right, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for everything.
That is a hard part to follow. I wanted to make sure that I didn't let the trustees' report close without thanking the county and thanking Carol for the help that I got this week. I met with Carol on a couple of occasions and got clarification on things like the hiring process, on things like how we've run that, and I just wanted to say that I appreciate the intentionality that the county has shown to that process and to me as I wanted to learn more about it. So that had been very, very helpful for me. So thank you for that. With that, let's move on to the library director's report.
Okay, so I would like to thank Joe Pederuti for all her work on the library board. And just so you guys know, I appreciate those conversations that we have. Anytime I can talk to you about how it works and how the process works, I'm more than happy to do that. And, you know, sometimes I don't get it all the first time, so I'm maybe guessing that other people don't as well, and I'm more than happy to have those conversations, just so you know that that's what I'm there for. What we have in front of you is statistics. July was the first of the new year.
Do we have that where we can see it like in front of us or just there?
You have it on your computer in front of you, the laptop in front of you.
Okay.
It's under the agenda. Help getting there, I can come over.
It's over here on the right under the agenda.
Some of the computers are different, so I think so, in the bookmarks.
I need you guys to speak into your mics. I just have a hard time hearing you, and I apologize.
Okay.
It should be under agenda item 9. If you click on that one, you should be able to pull up the materials.
Yeah, go to library directors. If you do that, and then hit this little arrow, and it will, there. And then you can go to statistics right there, where you're at. And then you can always exit out of here if you need it to be larger.
Okay, thank you.
You'll notice that we still do not have a gate count, and we still don't have a HUFI. And the HUFI is what counts our wireless hits, and we use that for reporting to the state library, which ties back into our funding that we have the possibility of getting from LSTA. We're in the process of trying to get that fixed still, but we're working on it. And you've got physical circulation, which is things you can touch and feel. The list of stuff after that, Canopy, Sorry, Hoopla, Mango, Creative Bug, and Libby are all downloadable resources, and you can see the statistics there and then the total. And a lot of the way the things are called out at the beginning and under the programming section is because of the way we need to report to Bibliostat, again, the state thing. We keep detailed stuff on the back end, but, you know, for your purposes, I think this gives you a pretty good idea of what's what. Does anybody have any questions about the statistics?
I do. Why don't we have the gate count? What's holding us up?
Because the gate is broken.
Okay, so what do we need to do?
Pardon me?
I mean, what do we need to do to help you with that?
I'm trying to get it fixed. I'm working with the IT department. I'm working with Envisionware. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Okay,
I'm doing everything I can on my end to get it fixed,
okay.
because we need those statistics. Anything else on that? Summer reading program is finished. 401 signups, 192 active readers, which are readers that turned in their logs more than once. We gave away 777 books into the community. I love that number. It's very often been higher, but you know, anytime we can push stuff out to people's homes is always a good thing. We did a post-summer reading program survey. The results of that have come back positive, and a lot of it had to do with patrons' interaction with staff, which was really, they were very appreciative, and it was very positive. Summer reading program is a core library programming function and encourages reading and to promote literacy, but particularly through the summer when school might not be in session. So libraries traditionally do summer reading programs. It's a big deal, a big part of what we do. It's also laborious, but, you know, pretty awesome all the way around. You also have the September calendar in your packet. That's pretty straight up. And staff update. We have recently hired a part-time page position. That's Jessica Hahn. She started on the 20th. 14-hour-a-week part-time position. We hired the digital information services librarian. His name is Banner Thomas Patterson. He actually was raised part of his childhood in Fallon. He is excited to be back. He will be starting mid to late September. His only heartburn is he can't be here in time for the Cantaloupe Festival, which he remembers as a child. He's got a master's degree in library and information science. We're pretty happy to have him. I think he's going to be a good fit, as are all of the people that I think we've hired in the last couple of months. And we did, as Sari said, the homeschool workshop on August the 20th. It was very well received. That was one of those things where Jay came to me and said, are we going to be able to do this? And I'm like, I don't know. We got a lot of other stuff going on. We're not been adding new programming. And she said, I think it needs to be blah, blah, blah. And I said, go. And it worked out just like she said. It was really, really wonderful. I don't think there was anybody that didn't walk away with something that they didn't know. Even people that use the library all the time, all those databases, all that stuff is really, really important for any school child, or particularly the homeschool. So
Carol, I have a
think
question. How many homeschoolers attended?
we had 22 people, parents and kids.
Perfect.
But it was good. I think it was a really positive thing. And I think that's all I've got, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. The next thing that we have on our agenda is to set the date and time of regular or special library board meetings.
I think we'd probably be jumping ahead of ourselves if we don't know where we are with the library, hiring of a library director.
But we could schedule the next regular board meeting, which would be September 26th. Fourth Thursday of the month,
25th?
26th. Unless I got my date wrong.
That's a Friday.
Is that right, Pam? Yeah. So that would be the next regularly scheduled meeting. Sue, do you need help?
No, this calendar that I'm looking at
Oh, okay.
says the 26th is a Friday, and that's the calendar with the library stuff on it.
I'm looking at that calendar too, and I can see what she's
Is
saying.
it wrong?
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Yeah, she's,
So I really don't need help.
no, I can see what she's
Thursday,
working
the
with.
25th. The calendar's wrong. Let's fix that.
I'm like, okay, I'll come Friday.
We can fix that. Thank you. You know how many people look at this? More than one. And, yeah, thank you.
So I will be gone on that regular meeting, so I think there'll still be a quorum with 3, so. Is that correct?
Yeah, my recollection of the statute is because now we have one member less, so we only have four, but then we operate as if it's a four-member board. And so, yeah, if three people are here, it would be sufficient. If we got two, then I think we got a problem, but with three would be fine.
Okay. I would like to just make sure that our trustee does not miss interviews. So let us know your schedule.
Just off that, from the 26th through whatever that Monday is, the 30th.
Can't use that calendar.
It is through the 30th.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion to approve the regular board meeting?
I don't think we need a motion. I think it can just be set. Yeah.
Okay, sounds like there is no problem with the 26th, and I agree with Sue that we probably want to hold the special meeting setting until after we've had the discussion in the next agenda item. So that gives us a good opportunity to move to the next agenda item. In old business, we have consideration and possible action regarding the discussion, direction, and approval of the next steps for selecting, interviewing, and appointing and hiring the Churchill County Library Director.
So to recap kind of where we left last time, you know, the goal was to try to get the first round of interviews completed, and we had 11 people apply for the library director position, 5 interviewed. The interviews were yesterday, August 21st, and we are recommending 3 of those 5 go to the Library Board of Trustees for interviews. The panel feels like we had, those 3 are pretty solid, they're very solid candidates for this position. So that's what we are recommending to the Library Board of Trustees, that you interview those 3.
Excellent, and that helps us understand how long we're going to need.
I can't hear you.
I
am so
apologize.
sorry.
I'm trying to lean into it, but I'll get real
Kind of pull
close.
forward. I can't hear.
I'll scooch it forward. That gives us a lot of the information that we were looking for last time, the number of candidates that we're going to be
Right.
interviewing. Now we need to have the discussion of any other of parts of the organization of that process that are outstanding. We'd agreed to take on the county's traditional process from here. What other information can we have?
I can tell you that I've got some recommended dates, just as a starting point, not recommended. I've pulled some dates up that I think might work for interviews, but not etched in stone, and I just did that so that we would have a starting spot. And the questions came up last time, and the second round of questions have been developed, and they reflect conversations that I had with the board, different board members, and we got one person sent in recommended questions, a list, and while none of those questions were anything new, the wording and stuff, I tried to incorporate incorporate some of that verbiage into those questions, because the feeling was that we would be able to drill down and get to the information that we need. But again, I feel like the questions are solid, and will give you the information that you need to determine which person is going to be a good fit. Do you want my dates? Here's my date. And understand, too, that we're coordinating a whole lot of people. And the format will be the applicants will come to me, and I will do a tour of the library. While that's happening, this board will get an overview of the process from Jeff and from Chris in HR, who will be present for those interviews. And then once I'm done with my tour of the library, then we peel them off one at a time to come in to have their interviews. Again, this is a process we did in the past. I feel like it's solid. I think it's nice that they get a sense of what the library is, what it looks like if they haven't been here, but also realize we will be coordinating what I think is going to be a whole day, and we will also need to make sure that these people can be here on the day that we select. So there's a lot of coordinating that needs to happen in that process. So the dates that we looked at are September 3rd, the 9th, the 10th, the 12th, and the 13th. And again, not etched in stone, I just wanted to be able to lob something out there so that you'd have a starting spot. Nice, Pam.
And as you can see from the conference room schedule, the 12th is not available. So just keep that in mind.
And I'm taking 60 students to a career fair in Reno on the 12th. I'm not available that day.
The 12th is out, is that what I'm hearing?
Yep, I'm not available that day.
Okay.
I have the most availability on the 13th. That is an excellent day for me, but I can move things around. This is a priority for me.
Because, the feeling is we need to be able to give people time to get here, but we want to get her done because sometimes candidates move along.
I'd like to see us set either the 9th or the 10th. That gives them, what, 3 weeks? Were all of those interviews, Carol, you did in person?
No, they were all Zoomed.
All of them?
Yep.
All 11?
We all, no.
Oh, you interviewed
There were
five.
11 applicants, 5 interviewed, and we selected 3 to move forward, and all those interviews were Zoomed.
Okay, so they're all from out of town then.
All those interviews were Zoomed.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any preferences with the dates that Carol has laid out?
The 13th works best for me, but I can move around my schedule, so I'm pretty lenient too.
Okay,
And I cannot do the 13th.
okay,
I
all
can do the 9th, the 10th, and the 3rd.
right. Ryan, do you have any preferences?
I was going for the 9th, but I can go do the 13th if I need to. But it doesn't sound like Sue can do the 13th.
I can make the 10th work easy. I can absolutely make the 9th work if it's necessary. So if you need the 9th, I can make that arrangement. I have enough time.
Just looking at travel, the 9th might be better for people coming out of town to travel over the weekend and then interviews on the 9th.
That is a very good point. Sari, is the 9th all right for you?
I can make anything work.
Excellent. I think we found our baby then. Let's do the 9th. Do we need a motion on that date, or are we good to just agree?
I think it should be agreed upon and just move forward. I don't think we need a motion for it.
Excellent. To my understanding, one of the things that I particularly liked when Carol explained the process to me is that we will have a session as a board while the candidates are going through the library and that tour to have HR advise us on anything that we might need to work with us on our language so that we can do this professionally and well. And that helps me quite a bit. It also helps me get to know my board of trustees, and I think that that's going to help us.
And I also think being able to do it in one shot, one day, it's, so you blank that day out, and then, and with 3, I think that's very, very manageable.
What would the time frame be?
Probably, my preference would be to start at 9 o'clock in the morning, have them come to me, and then have you work with HR and legal, and the library tour, hour and 15 minutes, so that the first one would start around 10:30?
Perfect.
And I'm thinking probably an hour and 15 minutes for each one, but I'll talk to HR, but we'll stack them in there, and we'll figure out, a lunch break or whatever that's going to look like.
And just so you
Anything-
know, sorry, that morning session with myself and with HR, that would be in an open meeting as well. So we'd have that in an open meeting while the interview, or while the tour's going on. and
Yeah,
then-
while the tour's going
yeah.
on.
I have a question. I've sat on a lot of interviews, and we usually get background, resumes, everything to look at before the interviews. When will
be-
those be?
Because it's going to be open meeting, you will get the packet, which will include
Everything.
that information from those people because of the open meeting. So
Okay.
you will get the packet with all their information when that goes out in
Okay.
advance, which will be, when is that, Pam? If we're looking at the 11th? I'm not used to having a Pam.
No, we're looking at the 9th.
We will be posting on the 3rd.
Which is the day after Labor Day, Tuesday the 3rd.
Okay, thank you.
So would we adjourn the morning meeting and then go into the interviews? And is that another meeting?
It could be done either way. I think last time we did the morning, I'm trying to remember, we did the morning kind of meeting, and I think, did they do lunch, or Carol, at that time, and then come
I
back
think,
in the
no,
afternoon?
because I know that people left, the first person to be interviewed left before
'Cause
lunch.
we did some interviews in the morning and then in the afternoon, yeah. We
Yeah,
broke
I
for
think we
lunch.
started in the morning, took an hour, maybe did the first,
Yeah. And so we could do it either way. We could notice 2 meetings and have a meeting and then, break, or just put a break under one meeting and have it all. But whatever you guys would want to do. If you'd want a little break in between, we can do that and schedule it by time. However you'd want to do it.
I'd
I
like
think
to
that's
see,
the way that we did it the last time, and I
Yeah.
still have the agenda and stuff,
Okay.
but I can't get to my documents down here, so.
I'd like to go with the schedule that Carol suggested, that we start at 10:30. And once we finish the first one, we take a 30-minute, 45-minute break, and then reconvene and interview the next 2.
But you would have a meeting at 9 o'clock in the
Right,
morning.
right, I knew that. I knew
9
that.
o'clock, and then the interviews.
Starting at 10:30.
10:30. And do an hour and 15 for each one, with a break in between so you can do what you need to do, and then throw a lunch in there,
A
and then
quick
come back
lunch.
for the,
Yeah, a quick lunch, 30 minutes.
does that work?
Does that work for you guys?
Absolutely. I like the idea that Pam has brought through and Jeff has suggested of having the 2 separate meetings agendized differently. That gives us a break. Sorry. 2 separate meetings, the training, the break, and then we start into the interviews with breaks in between. I think that sounds reasonable.
And before we post the meeting, I know that Carol and myself and Pam have been meeting. We'll probably rope in Jessica as the chair on that meeting, just so you see exactly what's happening and what the time frame is, and be involved in that process.
I
So
have
I've
a
got-
small question about the interview process. So is it just the chair asking the questions and we're taking notes, or how does that process go?
There's each one of you will ask a question, and your question sheet will say who asked which question.
Okay.
And there's a verbiage at the top that HR will go through when everybody's there, so that everybody knows how long it's going to take, what the process is going to be. And then at the end of it, HR will wrap up with, you will get back to any detail, housekeeping details that applicant needs to know. So your responsibility will be, there's your question, and then there's the next person's question and the next person's question. It's laid out pretty well. So the same person is asking the same question of each one of the applicants.
Deputy, at my last meeting, I asked if we could be provided the questions before, and Sanford said, yes, we can, but if we do, we're going to have to put them on the agenda too. Is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny process with the open meeting and with public records. I watched the meeting from last time. In my recollection, there was a discussion of, well, do we want to keep these things kind of private so that the applicants don't see them ahead of time, and it becomes very complicated once things are transmitted to everyone on the board, they're also transmitted to the public, and everyone has access. And so my recollection was there was a discussion about that. And so the board's not prohibited from going and speaking with Carol and speaking with HR kind of individually and saying, hey, here's some things that I want to see, some questions I may want to have, and those can be incorporated in. It becomes a little more complicated and potential errors when everything's sent out to everyone to review, and you're all reviewing it, and you'll have all the information, but the public doesn't have it, if that makes sense. And so I know there's kind of the standard questions. I know Carol and HR have worked on some questions, and so I think my advice would be, to be involved in that process, go and talk with them.
Okay.
Let them know, here's some things I'd like to see, here's some questions I'd like to propose, and they can work that in there. But as far as, hey, here's all the questions, once you do that, it's available to everyone.
Okay.
And again, I would like to say, given the conversations that I've had with everyone, and given a look at the questions that were asked in the past, and given the public input onto the questions, I feel very confident that everybody's concerns or what they wanted to include, I feel pretty confident that that stuff is in there.
Okay.
And I kept pretty good notes when I talked to everybody, and yeah, and then trying to run round one with round two. But I feel like you're going to get the information that you need, again, in order to make a, a solid decision. Does that make you feel any better? Sue?
I just have questions.
Okay. So let me just recap what I hear. We're going to do a tour with me at the library with the candidates at 9 o'clock. You guys are going to get training for the process. The first candidate's going to come in for an interview at 10:30. We'll slot off an hour and 15 minutes for each interview, and probably with a 15-minute gap in between, 30-minute lunch, and then we'll go back and finish, and then deliberations after.
And deliberations are an open meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Is the goal of that meeting to hire that day?
I would certainly like to see a candidate selected that day.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're going to have to come back and open meeting law and,
Okay.
what else?
Does anybody else have more questions about the process or any more comments on it or preferences?
No, I just want to thank Carol and the HR team for bringing us 3 candidates.
Yeah, I was really happy with the way we managed to get it down the road.
Absolutely.
I'd also like to request that none of the interviews are done Zoom. I want in-person interviews as a library board member.
And yes,
Okay.
we're with you on that.
Okay,
Well, and
thank
I
you.
want them to see
I want
the
them to
library.
see us.
Well, I want them to see the library.
Okay.
I want them to understand, the whole goal of this thing is to make sure it's a good fit. And the only way it's going to be a good fit if they can see as much as they can see.
Right.
And seeing the space that they're going to be working in is going to be really, really important, I think. I mean, it certainly was for me. So yeah, I absolutely agree, Sue.
I appreciate the emphasis by Sue on this. I think it is important for them to come to the community and meet us. Is there anything else that we would like to put into discussion on this?
Do we need an agenda to set that date with the objective of hiring a new library director?
I'm sorry, do we need an agenda
Do we need
for it?
an
or a-
agenda item, or will you guys do it?
For the upcoming meeting, we'll put it together.
Okay.
We'll get it all put together and get it posted and all that. And like I said, we'll coordinate with Jessica as the chair.
Okay.
To make sure that it says what the board wants it to say, it's set out how the board wants it set out. And, yeah, that'll happen.
Perfect. Thank you.
I just have a question about the questions. So you will come to me with the questions that you want, and I will ensure that those questions are included in there in some way.
Okay.
Maybe not verbatim, I just want to make sure I have this right. Perhaps not verbatim, but what we're trying to get to.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in my recollection, I mean, there was the approval of the process as has typically been done within the county, and that process involves HR and Carol and, piecing together these interview questions. And so however that's done, whether it's, look, we're getting, input from the public, we're getting input from the members of the
Yeah.
board, the trustees, however that's done is fine. Obviously, those questions will be vetted to make sure they're appropriate and they fit in, those kind of things. I mean, if a
Yeah.
board member comes and says, I want this question, it's a crazy question, then it probably wouldn't be included, but that would be the process, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Not that you would ask crazy questions.
You know what,
Just-
I might.
Just-
I might.
So this is agendized as possible action, so we could take a motion to approve the process as discussed and as described by Carol, and to also approve the date as discussed and described as the 9th.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate. I mean, I think there's going to be a level of further coordination with the potential candidates. I don't know what the board feels about, if there's, 3 other people out there that need to coordinate coming here. If one of them says, hey, I can't make it that day, I mean, it's, worked for all of our calendars. I don't know if the board wants to discuss that or provide some latitude in the process to allow to schedule it on a different day if it's coordinated with everyone, those kind of things. But there's still that piece out there that's unknown.
That's an excellent consideration. I hadn't thought about that either, but it's absolutely possible. What have we done in the past? Because we have to coordinate all of these entities to one day. It's not like a traditional interview where you could just bump it to the next day.
I'll be honest, I don't remember what we did last time as far as coordinating. I think we picked a date and it just worked for everyone.
I can't remember either, I just can't. But I'm thinking if we have, this is the day that we're shooting for, and if we get totally up against the wall with a candidate, maybe we need to have a second day and then give HR the possibility of flopping them, working with whatever that time frame is. Could be this day or this day.
First of all, we gave them a Zoom meeting, the first interview, and I think if they're really intent and really want this job, they'll make it on the 9th. I don't want to say, okay, well, we can do it for you on the 11th. I think that we.
No, I meant we could have, give HR the latitude of perhaps this day or this day.
Oh, I wouldn't like to see that, because once I set it in my calendar, how about you guys?
I am more lenient. I know people have a life other than the job that they're going for, and sometimes, like if they live in Chicago or somewhere else, or they have a major appointment that day or something, I don't know. I would want to be a little bit more lenient. I just hate to lose out on a super good winner because we weren't lenient with them. That's what I'm getting at.
In my mind, if we had said the 9th or the 10th could work for us, the 9th is better. If we gave HR the latitude to say the 9th or the 10th, which one can you get the most candidates on, then HR can manage that conversation in such a way that it's not a candidate saying, I can only come once. It gives them a little bit of room. What do you think? Brian, you hadn't weighed in, but you look like you might.
Well, that week seems pretty busy for everybody. So what about, like, if we looked at, like, the 16th and just keep it on a Monday? They can either have it on the 9th or the 16th.
But what if I have one person say, I can't come on the 9th, but I can come on the 16th, and two says I can come on the 9th, I can't come on the 16th?
And I think if we give HR latitude to, this is not HR's first run at probably a process like this, and maybe, you know, he's got ways that he can work with them. You know, I don't think it's hard and fast. I think but if we give 2 dates, he may be able to shuffle, maybe I'm speaking incorrectly on his behalf, but, because HR is the one that's going to be, you know, making it work. But if you say, this is our preferred date, this is the date, we want them all on one day, we don't want to break them up, and this is our preferred day, but we could also do this day if this one doesn't work for everybody.
Well, we're 3 weeks out, so if HR has the 3 names and starts contacting them tomorrow, maybe if they had something planned on the 9th, they could change it. It's not like we're calling, we want you here next Monday.
I'm not arguing with you.
No, I'm just
I would just
saying-
like not to lose anybody.
Oh, I agree.
And the only reason I bring it up, I mean, the board can do whatever they want, is, you know, if it's set for the 9th and they go out and, again, this is hypothetical world, all three say, hey, we can't make it that day. I just want to prevent having to come back to the board to have another meeting and agendize it to say, okay, well, let's move it to another day. I think the board could set it the 9th and say, that's our hard, fast rule, but if HR runs into a problem, then there's some latitude there, or just set it on the 9th, however you guys want. But that was just my thought, is if it doesn't work, we'll have to come back and have another board meeting, which would kind of be a headache, but however the board wants to proceed is fine. That's the only reason I bring that up.
That is a very practical piece of advice. And I also think that we can honor, if Sue can make the 16th as well, I think we can honor Sue's response that she wants to have everything on the same day by letting HR say, we're setting one meeting, we have 2 possible dates. Do you have a preference to your date? And then get back to them and say, we have this date, can you make that date? But that gives HR 2 things to work from. What do we think?
The 16th works for me. Like I said, I'm flexible, so.
I've sat on a lot of interviews, and we've had interviewees from across the United States, and I agree. I mean, I think we need 2 days for HR to get everybody here at one time.
So what I hear you saying then is that you want to interview all 3 of them the same day, either at the 9th or the 16th.
That is correct.
Okay, I can live with that.
All right, so I think we've kind of run this to ground. I would entertain a motion that will let us work with that structure as described.
Okay.
I just thought of something that probably doesn't matter. Sorry. The library's closed on Monday. So that person is not going to see the library in action. I don't know that that matters. Most people that are in this position have been in libraries before. It's probably not a big deal. But it's probably not a big, sorry. I don't think it matters. They're going to know what it looks like. They're going to know what story time looks like. They're going to know what happens in a library. So they'll be able to see the space. Yeah. Sorry.
I don't know. I kind of understand what you're saying, Carol, because not necessarily for the tour that they're going on with you. Yeah, that's just space. But if I was being interviewed for a job, I would want to go in on my own and see the demographics, see the kids, see how things function. So I would know, wow, this has a lot of kids in it. And, so if somebody isn't really kid-friendly, they know, wow, this isn't the library for me. Or if they see, oh, wow, yes, this is the kind of place I want to be in. So they have more gumption to stay and be the
Right.
director that we need.
Yeah. I know I just stuck a wrench in the works, and I should have thought of it sooner, but I didn't.
I'm just going to pull up my calendar again, and we'll see if there's a Tuesday grouping. For the calendar with the county, it looks like there is space on the 10th and the 17th.
Carol, I agree with what you say, but from 9 to 10 in the morning, you keep great data. I can look at it and see how many kids, how many people are in the library at 9 to 10 in the morning. I've been there, and there's just a small handful compared to 11:30 story time, or whenever. So I'd like to stay with the Monday, and if they want to go on their own, they can go on their own.
Okay.
I agree with that. With kids being back in school, you're not getting the kids at 9 to 10 on Monday like you would at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I think for me, most of our purposes will be accomplished on those Mondays, and I think
so. And
yeah.
again, I apologize for not thinking of that.
I'd like to make a motion that this committee interviews the 9th or the 16th, giving our HR the directive to set the date according to the interviewees. Carol starts with them at 9, and we start interviewing at 10:30, hour and 15 minutes, 15-minute break, a 30-minute lunch, finish 2 hour and 15s, open discussion, and hopefully choose a new library director.
I will second that.
Excellent. We have a motion on the table. Let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Hearing no opposed, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Thank you, Carol.
So at this point, we have some new business. We have a facilitated training by the District Attorney's Office on open meeting law and ethics for the Library Board of Trustees.
Before we get started, how long is this presentation?
How long do you want it to be? No, I mean, 20 minutes maybe.
Okay, perfect. I just was wondering.
I'll go as quick as I can.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to know.
Sometimes I say lawyers are the worst. We all think we're the exception, but we're not. And
Okay.
So I apologize for the dryness of this and the topic, but here we are.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like me to move forward? Yes, I'm okay.
Please do.
So I met most of you today, and I've known some of you for more than that. But my name's Jeff Weed. I'm Deputy District Attorney in our Civil Division here. There's 2 of us in that division, myself, and you had Joe Sanford here last time. I'm assigned to the library as kind of one of my primary focuses, among others. But and so if you have questions at any time, you guys are welcome to come. I got my contact information at the end of this. So if you have questions, you can email me, call me, stop by, anything like that. But we're going to talk a little bit about the open meeting law and ethics today. Have any of you not been on a board that's subject to the open meeting? Has anyone been exposed to the open meeting quite a few times, or, okay. So Sari, this is your first time kind of dealing with the open meeting. It's kind of I don't call it a funny animal, but it's an interesting one, and it exists for a reason. Here at NRS 241, it kind of sets forth what the legislative's purpose is for this, right? To aid in conducting the people's business and to do it openly and that we conduct all that open for the public to see. It can be a headache at times, like for example, when I mentioned, well, we might have to come back and have another open meeting to set another date if we only set one. And so there's some things that can be difficult, but it exists for a reason, and it's a good thing that we have it. Things that are subject to the open meeting is when there is a public body, which is a quorum, right? So right now we have 4 members, typically we have 5. So when 3 are present, you have a quorum. And if they're going to take action or they're going to deliberate, we're subject to the open meeting law. Again, here we got the 3 members. Action, and these are things, action typically isn't something that happens outside of a meeting because you have to make a decision, you have to commit or promise, right? You enter into a contract, you do something like that. Where you have an affirmative vote to do something. Those things are kind of hard to do off the record, but they happen. But generally, this deliberation is what becomes the problem, where people begin to talk, they weigh decisions, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you got 3 of you talking, and especially on a smaller board like this, it can become an issue. And so it seems kind of funny, but there's times where you may have to say, hey, I know you want to talk about this, but we can't do that. And so we have the book bites and beverages coming up, right? That's something that the board can attend, social gatherings, those kind of things, but as long as you're not engaging in business, right? You can't talk about, and it's hard when it's at the library, hey, what do we want to do with this? How do we want to do that? Those are things to be careful about. So you can gather as a quorum at places, but you just have to be careful about what you're talking about and what kind of business you're doing. As long as you're just there socially and you're all gathering, that's fine. There's always the appearance of impropriety to be aware of. Where even if you're in a corner at a break during a meeting and you're just talking about what soda you like, the public's going to see that and wonder what they're talking about over there. They're probably talking about X, Y, or Z that has to do with the library. And so it can go beyond just what you do. It can be what you're perceived to be doing. And so just something to be aware of, something to be cautious about. But you can go places together. You can socialize, even as a quorum, as 3 of you. But again, what you talk about and what you don't talk about is important. So again, here's some things to watch for. Sidebars, right? When you're up there, you kind of want to lean over and talk to your fellow board member about something without turning your microphone on. When there's breaks, again, sometimes you want to go to the corner and talk about something, or it's just easy that it gets brought up. Be careful about those kind of things. And we'll talk about rolling quorums and emails here. Serial communication is maybe one of the greatest violators of this open meeting deliberation and action when you need to be out in the open meeting. It's when, Sari talks to Ryan, and then without talking to anyone else, Ryan talks to Jessica, and now all of a sudden you got 3 people involved, and you may not even know that you have this quorum that's happening. And so it happens. Do I got another email? Or not email, another slide here? I don't think I do. But it happens with emails a lot, right? You got to be careful with the reply all. So for example, when we communicate with board members, we typically try to blind copy people so that you're not responding and everyone's communicating. Or forwarding emails, those are things to be careful about. Again, Jessica emails Sue forwards it to Ryan, and all of a sudden we're in a problem. When you have an 11-person board, it's a little harder, right? Like our health district here, it's got 11 people on the board. You got to get 6 people involved in that chain, but here it's just 3, right? 1 forward, and all of a sudden you've got some problems. So those are things to be cautious of. Meetings with attorney. You're always welcome to meet one-on-one with anyone you want, right? As long as you're not gathered together. But there are times where you need to meet with myself or with Mr. Sanford or with the district attorney's office. But those are things that are specifically towards litigations. There's something going on with the library that we've got some concerns about. The law allows those to happen kind of behind closed doors, not out in the open meeting, because obviously there's legal advice being given, there's questions being had about potential issues with the library and legal ramifications that come with that. So if that's ever an issue, you'll hear from me, and we'll set that up. But again, it can only be to discuss potential and existing litigation on that. And again, no action can be taken, but that discussion portion of the quorum can take place. Notice requirement. There have been meetings that have been moved before just because the notice requirement wasn't proper. So today what is today, Thursday? Thursday, you have to post for the agenda 3 days before. That would be Monday by 9 a.m. It has to include a concise but informative notice, right? If you don't know what's happening on the agenda, the public doesn't know what's happening on the agenda. I've attended board meetings and I look at it and I think, what in the world are they going to be talking about today? And so just something to keep in mind. And so if you ever have a question, if you look at an agenda item and you think, oh, is this properly noticed? Just reach out and we can discuss it and talk about it. As I typically try to meet with the director ahead of time, and so we can kind of, sort all that out and we're not having issues with the agenda. But sometimes things happen, typos happen, things happen. And you can't correct it on that agenda, but we can move it down the road and do things like that. And again, you'll notice on the agenda, I think Jessica had mentioned at one point that something was listed for possible action. If you're going to take action, it's got to be listed as such. And so I think before each agenda item on the agenda, it says for discussion and possible action regarding, and then it has the thing. This agenda item, I don't think has that because you're not taking any action. There's nothing to do on this one. And so again, if it's not listed for possible action, the statute requires that language, then it's just there. You can discuss it, but you can't do anything about it as a board. Again, the agenda, some things to do is to stick to it. It's easy once you start talking about item A to spiral into item B, and all of a sudden you're talking about something that's not related, and that's very easy. You could be talking about, well, what are our numbers at the library? And then all of a sudden you're talking about, well, should we change hours? And then all of a sudden you're talking about, well, do we need more employees? And then you kind of get on this connected but distant train. And so something to just stick to the agenda. Again, someone from our office, generally me, will always be here. If you're wondering if you're off track, I'll either chime in and tell you, or you can ask me, hey, can we talk about this or can we talk about that? And I'm happy to provide that. You'll notice again on the front of the agenda, there's kind of a list of some directions. One of them is it can be taken out of order, right? And so you don't have to go, A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3 necessarily. It's good to. But if you need to discuss things out of order, you can. And again, be careful when you're talking about future items for agenda items, because someone will bring it up and another member will say, oh, that's a great idea. And then you just start talking about it, right? Instead of having it agendized and talking about it, you can say, hey, we want to talk about this later, but you can't talk about it now. This is kind of a silly slide, but right, you don't want to come and just say, look, I have my mind made up. I'm not, we've talked about this kind of a thing. There's nothing you can do today that'll change my mind. As a public board, you answer to the public, right? I mean, you're appointed, we'll talk about later, you're appointed by the county commissioners who are elected by the members of the county. And so you answer to them, and it's good to come with an open mind. Always be willing to listen and consider what people have to say. And so to just come and say, hey, I've already had my mind made up. Those are things just to be careful about. If there is a violation, so the Attorney General's office in Nevada kind of oversees violations and imposing of the open meeting law. And so these are just some of the things that are important for you to know that can happen if it's violated. One, it's just void, right? You got to go back and you got to redo it. Sometimes you got to notice that there's corrective action. That's a little bit embarrassing, right? You got to put it on your next agenda. We messed up. We didn't do this. We got to correct something. Here you go, world, for you all to know. And then it gets into more serious ones. And these next two are more for, you got these willful violations. We're purposely trying to skirt the open meeting law. They're scary, but they're not typically imposed because, again, it's, hey, let's all meet down at the old theater and we're going to talk about this. We're going to make decisions and do it on purpose. But there can be fines that are imposed, and then there can be misdemeanor, which is technically a criminal offense for a violation. Again, those are willful. I don't anticipate any of you will do that. Again, if you ever have a question, just reach out to our office, and we'll talk to you about, hey, what can you do, what can't you do, and be happy to walk you through that. Public comment. The statute allows for kind of a couple ways to do this. How we typically do it is, you'll notice again on the agenda, there's a public comment at the beginning, there's a public comment at the end. It can also be opened up on particular agenda items, right? If there's a particular issue that people are going to want to make comments on, you can discuss it, open it up for public comment, and then take action. But there has to be at least 2 periods. One has to allow people to talk about things that are not on the agenda. Generally, people show up and they'll see an agenda item and say, I want to talk about the hiring of the library director process, or whatever it is. But they also have to be, awarded the opportunity to talk about things that aren't on the agenda. So they want to come in and talk about the lack of doormats at the whatever it is, right? Anything under this board's purview, they can come and talk about. They want to come talk about NASA, not really under your purview. Those are things that, if the chair so desires, they can say, let's move on from that. But they need to be awarded that opportunity to speak. The library agenda, you'll see, limits it to 3 minutes. You can't limit the content, right? You can't say, I don't like what you're saying, please stop talking. You can, as far as you have authority over the topic. But as far as, I don't like what you're saying, you're being critical of us, next person, obviously you can't do that. And we advise board members not to make public comment. It can happen, and sometimes a board member will just want to say, hey, thank you for X, Y, or Z, and obviously that's fine. But as a member of the board, there's potential implications of, is it agendized? What are you talking about? Is there a discussion about it? And so it's just something to be cautious about. We advise not to make the public comment as a board member, but just to listen. And again, engaging is difficult, right? If someone comes up and they want to talk about something and it's not agendized, then all of a sudden a board member starts to engage with that person. All of a sudden you're talking and discussing things. And so it can come across as, I don't care what you're saying, but there's a reason for it, right? To listen to it, and you can consider it, you can put it on another agenda if you want to discuss it. But as people make public comment, you take it, you internalize it, you think about it, but discussing it can lead to potential issues. Any questions so far? Before I'm trying to not bore you guys to death too long. And the chairperson is responsible for the orderly procession of the meeting. They're in control. They call for motions. They call on people to to speak and things like that. Give people opportunities to do that. One thing to remember is that these are all recorded, right? Both typically audio and visual. And so if you're talking over each other, that can be a problem as people go back to listen to the meetings. They don't know who's saying what, or it's just kind of garbled. And so be aware of things needing to be ordered and taken. When it's your turn to speak, speak. When it's not, don't. But the chair kind of has control of that and how that goes. And again, chairperson may cut off speakers and presentations that are redundant or irrelevant, I guess, but irrelevant. But again, you can't base that limitation for the public on viewpoint. You gotta let that go. This is rare. I've never seen it happen here. It happens though where someone needs to be removed. I would advise before that happens to look over to us and say, what do we do? But if you can't conduct business, the law doesn't say, well, you just got to deal with it because you're a public body. It can happen. You admonish the person, say, hey, we ask you to stop whatever they're doing, yelling, interrupting, whatever it is. If you don't do so, we're going to ask the sheriff to come down and remove you from the premises, type thing, and then allow them that opportunity. But it can happen, and so we don't anticipate it. It's not something that I've seen happen in person, but it can be done. On to ethics. Fallon's a small town, and so I think we run into more, hey, I know this kind of person stuff than some other communities do. The general rule is don't participate in any manner in which you have a personal interest. The law kind of covers what those may be, but right, you don't want to accept a gift or loan if you have a pecuniary interest in it, right? It's going to directly affect your business. I want to sell books, from my business to the library, and we need to talk about it and do it, right? Those are clear and obvious ethical violations. And then this is, again, a lot of people are related in Fallon, but if you have an interest for someone who you have a commitment to in a private capacity, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means. But if you think, hey, I've got an ethical issue here, I've got a connection, I've done something like that, first thing you do is you disclose the interest. And you can come talk to us and we'll chat about it at the DA's office. But you'll come to the meeting, you'll put it out on the record. It's always good to just have things out in the open. And you can talk about it. And just because you disclose something doesn't mean you necessarily have to abstain, right? You only have to abstain if it would affect the judgment of a reasonable person. If you think you should abstain, you're probably reasonable and probably should. But right, you need to disclose it, and then if a reasonable person would be affected by that, you need to abstain from it. And again, the advice, when in doubt, just disclose it. It's better to have it all out there in the open. And so here we talk about a commitment in private capacity. So someone in your household, if you're related within the third degree of consanguinity, if you employ them or they employ you, if you have a continuing ongoing business relationship. My dad was a dentist in town here for a lot of years, and he had a business partner. If his business partner came in front of him on a board, then that's a problem. And similar type relationships. It's not an exhaustive list, but if it's like this or close to this, you got a potential issue there. And then this is just the table of consanguinity. You guys have probably seen something like this. You can just Google it. And right, so within the third degree of consanguinity. So we're talking about your parents, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, your brothers and sisters, your kids. The red area is kind of the no-go zone, right? Those are, what's that? That's the danger zone. That's right. Some other rules of thumb, again, don't accept gifts, services, do not use a position to secure a grant or unwarranted privileges, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of these are common sense things. And again, if you have a question, just come talk to us, and we'll talk about the specific circumstances. These last two slides are the last of it here. I just wanted to talk briefly about what your duties are as Library Board of Trustees. These are right out of the statute, NRS 379. You can look it up and read all about it. But you're appointed, 5 of you, by the county commissioners. You hold it for 2 consecutive 4-year terms is what you can hold the position for. If you've filled a position, I can't remember here who's filling. I think, Jessica, are you filling a position that was vacant? Sue, you are. Right, so you can finish out that term, and then you can do 2 consecutive 4-year terms is kind of how it works, if you so desired and wanted to be on here for 10 years or whatever it is. But, yeah, no, you're young. And then you can be removed if you're failing to attend for 3 consecutive meetings and you don't have a good reason for it. And then this is kind of small print in a laundry list. We won't go over all of it, but again, this is right out of 379.025. This is your duties as trustees of the library, and what you're supposed to be doing and what your obligations are. There's a lot of them. We're looking to hire a new director. Carol's been fantastic about helping the Library Board of Trustees fulfill these responsibilities. And so if you have questions about any of it, again, Carol's a wonderful resource for that, and the next director I'm sure will be too. Or you can come and talk to our office. Our office is not typically involved in the minutia of it all, and the actual, boots on the ground kind of stuff. We can read statutes and we can tell people how we interpret it, but as far as just the day-to-day runnings of it, the director is the person who has some good information on this kind of stuff. And since we have it coming up, I just wanted to pull this out, and we've talked about it. This is one of the duties, is to appoint, evaluate the performance of, and if necessary, dismiss the library director. It has to be in the open meeting. You can talk to employees, to members of the public, you can do your own research, as long as you're not doing it all together, right? You can go out and do those kind of things. And a potential issue that gets run into sometimes is a member of the board will go and they'll want to direct the director or someone to do something, but you can't do that on your own. So if you show up and you want to, hey, let me do X, Y, or Z, or you need to do X, Y, or Z, director, and they say, no, I don't want to do that. They don't have to do that. Obviously, that can come back before the board can discuss it, and, you can direct them to do something as a board, but if you go as an individual and you want that director to do something, you don't have any power as an individual, you only have power as a board, and so that's a sticking point sometimes. It can be difficult when there's a kind of an impasse between, what the director wants and what members of the board want, but you can always come back and talk about it on the record. If you're going to be talking about someone's, professional competence, things like that, how they're doing, those are things that require special notifications, and so you can't just show up and say, well, we're talking about how the library's running, and Carol, she's doing a terrible job, and, we don't like her. You can't just spout those kind of things out. If, you want to talk about Carol and her performance, as the director, her professional competence, she needs to be notified. We got to bring her in on a meeting, and there's a whole bunch of things that need to be done for that. So something to be cautious about. But this is your duty, and it has to be done in the open meeting. The only 2 positions in the county are the library director and the county manager that are done this way in the open meeting and are hired by boards. And so it's difficult. It's kind of a headache, but it's there for a reason. So just something to keep in mind. And again, same thing we started with, you're right? Things are to be taken openly and deliberations are to be conducted openly. And so this is my phone number and email. Our office is just down the hall. If you walk out these doors and turn to the right and walk all the way down, we're down there. And so stop by anytime, call anytime, email anytime. If I'm not there, we'll make time to meet with you when it's convenient. So any questions for me? I know we zoomed through that, but nothing? All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. That was helpful. All right, the next item in our new business is a consideration and possible action regarding the approval of the annual fiscal year-end budget for FY24 and monthly budget report for July 2024.
Keep pushing the wrong thing. Okay, this is the last time you're going to see fiscal year ending 23-24. So that's what we've got. That's in this packet, but that's the last time you're going to see that. The other thing you have at the front is fiscal year 24-25 July expenses. This is the report that you'll get every month that shows what we spent it on, and how much money we have left. I just want to reiterate that the salary portion and the benefit portion is not something that I can control. That comes out of the comptroller's office in conjunction with the commissioners. What I can control and what you can control is the services and supplies. And I mean, have you looked at this? Do you have any questions about it? I mean, I think it's pretty straight up. On page 3 of 7 of this document, you'll see under the Nevada Library Cooperative, we expended $12,071.48 of the $19,500 allocated for that. That's our co-op bill that we pay annually, and we always pay it at the beginning of the month, or the beginning of the fiscal year, our fiscal year, which is July 1st, and so that's what that is. That's a one shot. You're not going to see that again. The other thing to remember is that as far as services and supplies go, I can overspend one line item and underspend another. As long as I don't go over at the bottom of the column, I'm okay, and we're okay, and I watch that pretty carefully.
Is carried over.
It's not
right?
use it or lose it.
Right.
Correct, that's important too. It stays in our silos, so to speak. So again, this is just the first month. We didn't spend a lot on materials the last 2 months of the last fiscal year. We're kind of playing catch up on that. And again, just know when we get to the gift fund, that's there as kind of the cushion. There's not a lot of spaces that there's not a lot of places that we can pull back on our budget. And y'all probably know what the utility situation is right now. I know what it's like at my house, and I can tell you what it's like at the library. And so when things have to get cut, it's usually materials, because there's really no place else. But materials is also what our business is. And that's why the gift fund and the CLA, Churchill Library Association, who raise funds so that we can spend on materials, is kind of a nice buffer for us to have. So, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. On the membership, Carol, do you have enough money to get every membership that will benefit our people coming to the library?
I do. I think
Okay.
so. I mean, we do. What was one that was on here? The one that I spend that on is for the library staff to belong to Nevada Library Association.
Okay.
I pay for my own ALA, American Library Association, but I think that local one, is very important. We do everything we can to help support that.
Right.
But we don't belong to that many organizations, to tell you the truth. So that's I think that's adequate.
Okay.
And just, again, this is not a budget that I developed. I'm not passing the buck. I'm not doing any of that stuff. But I didn't develop this budget. This is a budget I walked into. And that's fine. It's a good budget. It's going to get us down the road. It's going to get us through the year in a very nice way, I think. I mean, clearly the materials is down a little bit, but we'll figure out a way to make that work because that's kind of what we do all day long. Trying to get it from where we can. And like I said before, the COVID money, we did pretty well the last couple of years. So I think this is an adequate budget, going forward. And I guess the other thing I want to mention is some of the stuff that you see out of here is that co-op that we belong to, it's that nut that we paid that $12K is to run the co-op and to pay our piece of our director. But we also get group buys that we get a discount on that's out here, in here also, that's just coming out of different light items, things like mobile printing. There's a $4,000 take out of there for downloadables from Overdrive and that kind of stuff. So I take advantage of everything I can that's going to save us a buck. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Do we need a motion to accept the monthly budget?
To my understanding, we do.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question was, do we need a motion to accept the budget?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. So let's call for that motion. Does anybody want to enter, or does anyone want to enter the motion?
I move to accept the annual fiscal year end budget for FY '24 and monthly budget report for July 2024.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The next item on our agenda is consideration and possible action to approve the library gift fund report.
And again, you'll see we've got gifts and donations, the Morgan Trust, which is monies that were given to the library before I got here. And then the building fund, which is sitting there from when there was talk of an expansion. And the county is the one that pushed money into that over the years. I expended it with the board's approval for the repurpose project that we did in 2015. So, and you'll see that there's nothing been expended out of this. And again, it's because we found other monies the last couple of years. We didn't need it. So this is kind of a nice cushion to sit on. But if and there's a real possibility by the end of the fiscal year that we'll need to tap some of this or try to tap some stuff from the Churchill Library Association. But this is where we're sitting, and what you'll see is an increase, I think, in interest, but not a lot.
Carol, I have a small question about it that I forgot to ask you earlier today. At the bottom, in the percentages, so everything is 100%, but at the bottom it says 94.77%. And so I don't understand. Oh, whoops, I'm on the wrong thing. I am so sorry. This was, okay, it's the library gift fund. Let me see.
On the
Page 4 of 7, it's right after the expense report.
There's a gift fund line there. That's because when the county does the budget, they pick a number and stick in there.
Okay.
That we can spend out of there.
Oh, okay.
And again, this is a number that gets plugged in there. That the commissioners say, yeah, we can spend this, but you guys have to approve, and that's what that number is. And they just plug something in there, and that was, again, I'm going to dodge it. I didn't create this budget.
Right, okay, thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Do we have any?
I really want y'all to understand it.
Do we have any other questions regarding the CLA and the budget? Hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion to accept the Library Gift Fund report.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the Library Gift Fund report.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Hearing no opposed, the motion carries. All right, so at this point, we have space for public comment. Does anybody have a comment? Seeing no public? All right.
I would like to make a comment before we
Excellent.
adjourn. I really want to make sure that our community is aware of when we're interviewing. So I guess I need to ask, I don't know, Pam, if you do that with the paper, because I think our community needs to see it a couple times in both of our papers. We're excited, we're going to be interviewing 3 people in open meeting. Here's their scheduled times. It's open, please come if you want.
Outside of the normal posting?
Yes, I would like to.
The only thing that I can suggest is that we would ask our public information officer to put stuff out on
Okay,
social media.
perfect. Did HR put something in the newspaper about questions for the librarian? I saw.
I don't think so. The county
And
posted it
if I may,
on.
Carol, we may just want to go back to the agenda item on the hiring process. If the chair wants to take us back to that agenda item, we can reopen that, talk about that, and then come back to public comment for this, if that's,
Okay.
we're getting kind of deep into it.
Okay, I just
And
want to
so-
know if we're going to be able to put it out there.
So let's revisit that agenda item on the process to be able to have some discussion about how we're going to notice the public and whether or not we need to change what is available. So,
It's my understanding that the request for questions was posted on the county website.
I read it somewhere.
You read it in the Fallon Post, and I'm guessing the Fallon Post picked it up. I'm guessing, I don't know.
I read it, and my question is, did they get anything? Did you know? Any response?
Yes, I talked about it earlier. We got one response with multiple questions that
Perfect,
were
perfect.
not anything that was, they were good questions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was anything in there that we didn't have. But the
Okay.
verbiage, again, sometimes it's trying to figure out how to write the question so we get the answer we want. And sometimes having other people's input on that is hugely helpful.
Absolutely. And I think it will be hugely helpful if we put it out in the new county, is it county website, Pam? Is that where the Post picked it up? Okay, because I think as a board, especially open meeting law, the more people we can say, this is happening, come if you want, and then they make the choice. They make the choice if they want to come and watch.
Just so you know, it's posted on the website, it's posted in the library, it's posted on the county, it's posted, where do we post? It's posted with the city.
The state,
Oh, okay.
we
only
post here, we post on the county website, and I think, has the library been putting it on their website?
Yeah, the library web, it feeds,
And then there's the state,
into it on
the
the,
state
on the
website.
Library Board of Trustees page.
I did read it in the Fallon Post.
Yeah, and I talked with the county's public information officer on that, so it was posted, as far as the request for questions, it was posted on the county social media. It was not sent directly to any other, media outlets. I think if it was in there, it was likely that it was pulled just off the county's website and put in, but it wasn't sent directly to any other media outlets.
Could we post that again when the interviews are and they're open and invite the public if they'd like to attend?
There was a close date on that, which is the request to come in, and that date has closed.
if I understand what Sue is asking for, we will be posting to our regular avenues, that we will be having the interviews and that the public is welcome to come and then,
Right.
correct?
I just want to make sure people get the information.
So what are you asking me to do?
My question is, I guess I know how Fallon Post got that off the website then.
If I may. I'm happy to talk to Ann, and especially once I have the agenda posted, because she has she has on other items, shared the agenda on social media and that sort of thing, and she, I'm sure, would do that for us, if you want me to do that.
Thank you.
Is this an item that we need further direction on or further motion on? It sounds like the regular methods sound good.
No, I think you're good. It sounds like Pam is going to check with the public information officer. I don't think this board has the authority to make her do that.
Correct.
But if she's doing that or, anything like that, and so it sounds like it's in the process, and I think it's good where it stands.
I appreciated the clarification of how the information structure works for the county, and that gives me a greater appreciation of that, so thank you for that. Is there any other discussion on this item that we need to entertain before we move on? All right, hearing none, I think that we can move towards an adjournment, so,
Sorry, did you call for public comment one more time?
oh, let's call for public comment for one more time. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, I think we can move towards an adjournment. So the adjournment of the meeting is at 4:31. Thank you.